All right, JP, go ahead and get going, and we'll take a look at the actual Salsify platform.
All right, guys, now time for the fun part. You get to see the tool, or at least for me, I'm excited. But no, today I'm going to be showing you kind of some dummy data for the GDSN channel and for the tool, and just kind of want to show you what we're starting with. You know, probably if you're familiar with Salsify at all, maybe not with so much the GDSN channel portion of it, you'll recognize this immediately. You know, in order to kind of access that GDSN channel, it's the same as any other syndication channel within Salsify. You would just go through here to the channels, you know, drop down, and just like a channel, right? You know, just like any other retailer, you can add it in here once you've gotten with your solution consultant. And you know, they've put in a ticket to add that channel, right? It would be a GDSN drop down, and that would create that GDSN channel for us. So we already have one set up for you guys, and we want to click into this here, right? And what you'll immediately notice is, again, if you're familiar with the channels, it looks very similar to the retailer syndication channels. And again, in the same way that those syndication channels have the kind of ease of use, you'll immediately notice this is very just user-friendly in how you approach the channel. You immediately are met with the overview of all your publishes, the feedback that goes with those publishes, right? And what we'll want to do next is we want to kind of look through the products page and how you select those products. The way I've selected it here is simply just, you know, any product that has any value for GTIN, right? So simply it just pulls through all products that are ready for syndication to GDSN because they have a GTIN set up currently. Now, that may not be the case from, you know, user to user, right, from client to client, but this is kind of a way that I was able to pull in the GTINs in order to set up and kind of get this channel going. There's also, you can create a list of what you'd want to publish to GTIN, to the GDSN channel, and there's just a couple ways you can do this. But again, this is pretty standard for you know, if you're familiar with Salsify, the Salsify channels, and but even not, you know, this is just kind of a simple overview of how you select product for the GDSN channel. Now, on to the next tab again is the readiness tab, and that shows you the readiness for the GDSN channel. You know, again, for those familiar with the for the syndication channels and for similar retailer channels, this looks probably very familiar. You'll notice that there are, you know, attributes with these asterisks, right? These are the fields that are required. You know, again, they'll be what you need to be filled out, and those are kind of the core, most important attributes to send to a retailer. But as John and Amitra have mentioned, certain attributes may be needed for the different retailers you're working with. It depends on who you're going to be syndicating to. And something that Salsify has to kind of help you along with, you know, selecting the proper attributes in order to make sure that you're successful here is you have a schema selector. And what we have set currently is just core for this GDSN dummy data, right? And what you can do is you can select a different type of schema, and that will change what attributes are selected. So again, you know, if you're syndicating to Amazon, right, you can select that schema. And of course, you would work with your solution consultant to set that up. And that will just ensure that as many attributes as possible are identified for what you need to send through to the retailer. And again, you will receive feedback depending on if you're, you know, there's any attributes missing for that retailer and for that syndication. And we'll get to how that feedback looks here in a second when we get to the sync report and item report. But this is kind of just an overview of that readiness report. And, you know, once all your products are ready, you're at 100%, what you would do is you would go to publish, you know, just simple as that. You're mapped, you're ready, and you go to publish, and you would publish here, right? And it would say all 11 products are ready for GDSN, right? You then click publish, and that would then send through, and you would get a item report here, which we'll click into. and you'll notice that you get feedback around this. Remember that, keep in mind that this is dummy data, and this is just simply for display on this sort of demo so that we can show you how this feedback would look, right? So we have a validation status. We have the G10s listed here. What is the GS1 registration status, right? And as the user, you'll have the ability to filter, right? These what the statuses are. To validated, needs validation, validation failed, right? You can filter to these different, what that validation status is, right? You can also filter to the target market in the same way, United States or Canada, and then also filter on the GS1 registration, registered, pending, rejected, and new. And then also just another nice filter was like, when was this last updated? So if you have a real long list and you want to go back to a publish that has happened a couple months ago, you can simply just access it here and do last 60 days or something like that. Another thing is that you can download a report here, right? And so if you want to simply, again, if it needs validation, right? Or excuse me, validation failed, right? And you want to download this report, you would just simply click here and that would download the report for you to access and to have that available to you, the consumer. Another thing that, with GDSN, the GDSN tool is the ability to schedule these publishes, right? And so you can click here to enable this publication schedule, and you can set it to a daily schedule, right? Weekly, monthly, set the time, and then set the time zone as well. There's plenty of kind of ways that you can set this, publication here through this publication schedule. Another thing you can do is set notifications, right? So if you want to send notifications to anyone on a successful publication, all you would do is select this, and then whoever you wanted to send to on a successful publication, you can add them here. The same goes for on a failed publication, a successful publication, or a failed publication. Excuse me, you can call webhook. Sorry, I kind of repeated myself here. But anyways, that's basically it for the notifications. And then, so you probably noticed that there's also this thing called a sync report, right? And what that is, it's around how when you go to publish and you synchronize with the retailers, what is the feedback that you receive on these different GTINs from the retailer, right? And just as before, there's different ways you can filter through this, right? You have you can filter on the target partner GLN, the trading partner target market, and just like before, the sync status as well. Just as before, you can download the report on this. So again, if you have some products that need to be reviewed, you can filter to the reviewed sync status and download the reports that's associated with those products. Another thing is that, again, this is what would show up after you do a synchronized publish. And what we had done before was simply a publish to the GDSN data pool, but I want to show you what it looks like when you publish and synchronize with a retailer, right? So once you've published, to the GDSN data pool, the next thing you want to do is publish and synchronize with the retailer. Once you've published, you'll get feedback for that publish here, right, for the GDSN data pool. You will click into it, and in this one, again, because it's dummy data, our feedback is going to be around the GLN not accepting from this demo environment, and that's okay. But say we were to fix the feedback, right, and simply, whatever the feedback was, if we were to go in and fix the feedback here, we would then run a publish again, but this time, what you'll see is a new screen which has the operation load and a dry run and Salsify support flags. So this load is what we did on that first publish, which was just simply loading into the GDSN data pool. And then the other option is to sync, which is to synchronize with the retailer, the GDSN retailer. So what you'll do is you'll select the GDSN, you'll select the destination GLNs. And what you'll notice is that there is these custom GLN groups. And essentially, and I'll show you in a little more detail here in a second what these are, but what essentially these are these are groups of GLNs grouped on, the Canada market, food service, French supermarkets, right? And so they're just different groups for different regions or different however you want to associate these GLNs, you can group them together. And if you select this GLN group, you would be able to publish to this group of GLNs. You can also select individually, depending on if you want just a publish channel for a single retailer and you want to publish, just say straight to Acme or something like that, you can select them here, right? And again, you can add more just like with selecting the GLN groups. And if you were publishing to add, you would simply leave add as the operation, and then delete would be your selection if you were trying to get rid of a synchronization to a retailer. And then here you have the new and initial load. And what new is it's for products that are brand new to a trading partner, right? And initial load is for products already in the trading partner's catalog. So if they already exist within the retailer, you would choose initial load for this synchronize. And what you've also probably noticed, is that this info icon that's to the left of all these different all the different subsections, and they give you a great little overview about what each box is. So if you come away from this and you're like, what, that guy just sped through this all. I can't remember what each one was. You can come back here and it's got a great overview for the different sections, right? And so you would run and publish here. And so once you've published, and again, because we're in a sort of demo environment, we won't actually publish, but let's say we did publish, we would then head on over back to what I was showing you before, to that sync report. And this is where you would get the sync report around the GTINs that you've published to the different trading partners, right? You'll see where it's synchronized to target, and you'll get the different statuses here in the feedback. And the feedback is where where Salsify really brings in a lot of the power, and it has a lot of good stuff for the consumer, because you're immediately able to see what needs to be done on the product. Right, for this one, it's a pub sub mismatch, which means that the retailer either hasn't subscribed to that GTIN, or just simply it's a mismatch, right? A reject is that if there's if say a GTIN was missing a specific attribute that you hadn't filled out, then you would see that here, you would go and correct it and then republish. Again, you're getting that immediate feedback, or as quickly as you can feedback, and then you're able to immediately correct it and send it through. And so again, just really, this is a great tool to immediately see that feedback that you get from the retailer and begin to kind of work through any of that feedback, any of the issues that you may see. But again, just because there is errors within the data does not mean it's bad data. It just means it needs to be corrected and updated and sent through properly. Because if there was no feedback, if there was no error that was registered here, then we would just simply passing bad data to the retailer. So this allows for the user to simply see what needs to be corrected and updated within the system. And I know that another thing that I want to talk about, is the Attribute Explorer. I know that's a pretty powerful tool, because just like both John and Amitra have mentioned, there's thousands of attributes. It can get pretty nasty. And so what this allows you to do is, hey, I've got feedback here that says, all right, product is missing description, corrective action needed, right? And it's like, okay, well, let me go to the Attribute Explorer and see what exactly is description, right? So you search description here, right? And then it gives you all the different, ones that have description in it. So again, description is not the best one because of the fact that a lot of these different attributes have description in the name, but you can kind of parse this down, and depending on what schema you select, it takes it from that 20 something attributes down to about 5, right? And then you can kind of get product type or product description. I need to go in and fill that out. Okay, it's not required. That's why I was able to send through. And, that's because certain retailers don't necessarily need a product description. And for, I believe that was, go back. It was Amazon. They do need that product description. So again, just would give you immediate feedback on it. Okay, it needs a description. Let me go in, find the attribute that I'm looking for, and then I can go back.
Actually, JP,
I'm sorry.
If I could cut in, actually,
yeah, absolutely.
Go back again to the Attribute Explorer.
Yeah.
So the way we built this is if you want to go fill out the product description, you can just click description, product description.
Yep. No, that's totally my bad. Yeah, John is totally right. That's a pretty awesome tool. And as you can see, I have been underutilizing it because I immediately was going back to search for it. But all you have to do is click here and it brings you right to it. So it's even better. So again, the tool, go ahead, John, sorry.
So we've also built in some information. If you were to click the actual product description column header, we've built in a lot of this context as well into these context cards that we call them. So you can see all of this rich description. You also see a card on top about why you're seeing this attribute, so if this attribute happens to be just in our core Salsify recommended plus global data model filter, but say this was a special attribute that Amazon wanted, it would show up in this top card as well. Why am I seeing this attribute? Well, you have Amazon selected and Amazon requires it. So we've tried to build in context and definitions in as many areas of the app as possible to meet your workflow.
Yeah, and that's a great call out, John. I meant to cover that as I was going through the required attributes, but yeah, I mean, you can see it in every single one of these attributes, right? It's a great, for some of these, you may not know immediately, okay, additional product identification type code, why is that here? And it gives you great overview in simple, easy to read language. And it talks you through, why are you seeing it? What is the GDSN name, and like all the different, definitions that you can work through. And it makes, your work going through and making the mapping, and then even mine as a solution consultant helping you, that work a lot easier, as it's just, again, ease of use, which is something that John's harped on more times than one, which is so important. What makes Salsify such a powerful tool.
And I think that, JP, I think that's a great transition. So we've talked a bit, obviously, about the feedback loops and being able to obviously take necessary action to correct some of the feedback that you may receive. And I know some point last year, we actually did a webinar around workflows. It wasn't in the context of GDSN specifically. It was more so around getting consumer data ready for e-commerce. But I know, John, that is something else that you guys took into account when you were building out the GDSN solution, is the ability to specify which groups should be interacting with the products based on some of that feedback, right?
Yeah, so JP, if you navigate over to the item report, as we all know, retailer requests are evolving. We've been getting more and more asks from trading partners for content that we haven't historically owned, right? The power of Salsify is that you're unifying the content and the people who own that content in different areas of your organization, right? So you'll have, maybe your master data or supply chain team is still responsible for initiating GDSN publishes and synchronizations, but, maybe a marketing analyst or a digital analyst owns the marketing content that you use to map into the GDSN channel. And say you get that feedback on a publish to the network. You can always hover over this, select your task, and say, well, I don't own marketing content, right? And this is all theoretical, hypothetical, because that's not what this message says, but bear with me. And then you can select that circle A up top at the top of the task here on the sidebar, and you can go ahead and assign that task and reassign it to the appropriate user who might actually own that content that feeds that attribute in the GDSN channel. So this is, we're showing you some disparate pieces of the app, but the story we're really weaving here is the ability for you to be able to automate your information into a unified platform from your upstream systems, be it ERPs, DAMs, any other kind of manual input that marketing teams might need to do to get consumer-facing content in. And then the ability for you to set up product filters that feed a GDSN publish, right? And you can set filters that say, okay, any item that has a GTIN or it has been added to the system or has been updated in the system since the last publish, right? And you can schedule that. So you can automate your flows from your ERP into Salsify out to the GDSN network, right? So all you should be focused on is synchronizing out to your trading partners rather than manually pulling information out of your ERP, manually typing it into a portal or filling out a Fuse template spreadsheet and then uploading it into a GDSN data pool. We're trying to automate, we're trying to streamline, we're trying to unify your teams and connect everyone in your organization that deals with content. So that is, we just got a question that I'm looking at, but that's the goal here, right? And then give you as much visibility and insight into what to do when things might go wrong when you publish to a trading partner, because they might change requirements or they might be asking for something that you've never given them before.
That is all really good stuff, John. Obviously, team, as we look at some of the questions within the chat and even the ones that we received prior to, of course, Salsify does also support a connection to One World Sync for GDSN. We did not talk about that one extensively today as we were focused on the Salsify GDSN data pool solution. So any questions and follow-ups, we'll definitely address those directly for some of those things that we didn't touch on today. John, I didn't know if you wanted to mention anything specific to the solution around One World Sync, but I know that that's definitely on our radar for takeaways for the attendees as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in the One World Sync solution partner ecosystem for about close to 6 years now. It's only in the last 2 years or so that we decided to build and launch and certify our own GDSN data pool. And we are continuing to support the One World Sync connector because we know that, while we have a lot of confidence in our GDSN data pool solution, and it is the future for Salsify, not every brand can make the switch right now because of contract reasons with their existing provider, or maybe they're just not. It's not the right time for that kind of project. So we still are supporting that connector.
Absolutely, and thank you so much, JP, for this wonderful demo. I think you shared obviously a lot of the elements that make the GDSN solution within Salsify really fantastic, right? I think we hit a lot of points about obviously having the ability to remove some of those silos, making sure that GDSN within your organization is viewed through the lens of syndication, right? So the same way you guys treat the critical level of a necessity of getting your items to .com is the same way with your trading partners, right? To get them your product information. Obviously, John gave us a great story around the connectivity and making sure that we're streamlining those processes as well.